Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be pruning up my larch trees. I did the initial repotting and pruning of these trees on February 14th of this year, so just over a month ago. And today I'm going to prune it again. My initial pruning of these trees is what I would call a safety prune. I removed a lot of branches that just weren't growing in the right places. But I didn't reduce the tree back to make it really compact and conical, and that's what I'll be doing today. So the new buds have emerged, the tree looks healthy, the needles look really healthy also, so I know the repotting was successful, and now I can look at those new buds that have come out and take the tree back even further. By reducing the tree back, I can then develop the fine branch structure from those reduced branches. If we look at the branches on this tree, you can see there's several that are very straight, not much movement to them, and they're kind of thick, especially up in the apex. So my goal today is to reduce the tree back, start the branches from further back, closer to the trunk line, and develop fine ramification coming out from those new branch leaders. So I'll be using clip and grow on this tree, selecting the shoots that are pointing the correct orientation. So generally on the bottom branches I want them weeping, and the upper branches will be more upright. So my goal today is to get a tighter conical form to both of these trees. I'm going to start with the lower branches, and the more I reduce the lower branches back, the tighter the conical form I can get. So it's up to you, if you want a very wide conical form or a wide triangular shape, you can leave these lower branches long. If you want a tighter conical form, you can bring them in closer to the trunk line. So I find on larch in nature that, they're very tall trees with a fairly tight conical form, maybe somewhere about here. Right now the tree I feel is too wide. It looks more like a typical deciduous tree with a wide spreading branches. So I want to tighten it up today, getting a tighter conical form. I've been using this technique on my larch forest, trying to get a nice tight conical form, lots of fine branching and ramification, and it's working well. I think the trees are developing nicely. I'm also using this styling technique in my bog forest here, trying to create nice, tight, vertical trees. I'm going to begin the pruning now, so I'm looking how far back I can reduce these branches. I want to get a nice, tight conical form. Some of the branches, you can see this one at the back here is quite long. There's no back budding on it, so I can't reduce it very much. So it kind of establishes my conical shape being quite wide. However, that branch could be eliminated in the future, or it may back bud and I can reduce it later on. So I'll work on the branches that I can reduce back. So I'll start on this branch here, and I'm looking for buds on the bottom because I want to grow them, instead of sweeping upwards, either more horizontal or cascading. There is a bud in here that's pointing downwards, which is good. So I can at least take off the end of the branch here. So here I go, quite a severe reduction, like that. This branch coming out front here, I have a bud that's pointing downwards way back here. So I'm going to reduce that branch really far back too. So back to here, like that. Severely reducing them. Now larches, you can get a lot of ramification in 1 year on these trees. They're very, very good at creating ramification. They'll put on 4, sometimes 5 flushes of growth in a year. I'll take this tip off here. This branch up here, I'm going to reduce back. I have some buds in here that are going a good direction, so I'll take this whole end off the branch. Here I go, like that. And then this one that comes out here, I'm looking for buds. There's not much. I can take the tip off, and that's about as much as I can reduce that. There are some buds, you know, way back here that I could reduce the branch to if I wanted it even tighter, but they're not pointing good directions. They don't flow with the branch, so I'm going to keep this one at the tip here as my branch leader. This branch here, I've got some good shoots coming out the bottom. So because I'm getting up in the tree, I'll want to reduce this branch back quite far. So I'm going to come right back to here. And I'm leaving a bit of a stub. You can see the stub I've left for dieback. The one above here, I've got a good branch pointing downwards here. I'm getting kind of up in the canopy where my branches, I would say like 1/3 the height of the tree. I want my branches horizontal. The branches above will start to rise and the branches below will begin to weep. So this is generally, you know, your 1/3 height is where you want your branches horizontally. And that's a general rule. It's not set in stone or anything. There's many different styles of conical shaped trees. So I'll reduce this branch back to here. This branch is a bit of a problem. I do have a branch back further, so I could take this tip off, and I will. So here I go, like that. That reduces it somewhat, and then I've got a branch facing downwards, so I can take this tip off also. Reducing it back as far as I can, keeping, you know, good healthy needles on the branch. This one, this lowest branch here, I can just take the tip off, reducing it back. I can't really go back any further. This shoot's pointing straight up. These ones are going a fairly good direction. On this branch, I could take it back like that, just reducing it a bit. Now I'm starting to go up into the canopy here. I've got a vertical shoot here, a vertical shoot here, and one pointing down here. I think I'll want to develop that one pointing down to get this branch. I don't want it, you know, going 90 degrees upwards. So this branch, this shoot that points down will eventually go horizontal. So that comes off like that. And then I've got a big branch up here. I've got 2 good shoots on it, so I can take the whole tip off that branch like that, reducing it back. This one here also, I can take it back. I've got some good shoots each side there, so I can take it back to here. There's a branch in the apex here I can take right back. So you can see that tight conical form emerging, just what I want. I'll reduce this stub back a bit further there. And I think that's it for the main tree. That's about as tight as I can get it. And you can see it's quite a change for the tree, but it does have, you know, a more natural larch form to it now, and then I can develop ramification coming off. And I think, you know, in the future it'll look quite nice. So I'll tackle tree number 2 now. So again, you know, my lowest branch here, I've got a shoot coming up the front. I can at least take this branch off to here, like that, and I'm going to reduce this one back, or take it right off, like that, getting that lowest branch very compact. I can prune this lowest branch back a bit. This one, I've got a good hanging branch here. or bud on the bottom. I have one at the side. I think in this case, I'm going to take it off here. And I'll remove that one that's sticking up. Like that. If this branch develops, you know, as it develops, I can maybe prune it back further, but for now that's about as far as I can go. Now this branch here, I've got a shoot here, one here. They're not ideal, the locations, but I can at least take the tip off, like that. And there'll be more pruning coming to these trees. I can take the tip off here. I can take the tip off here. You can see these lowest branches are quite weak on this tree. So here I'll take this one off here. And I'll take the tip off this one. Then I'm getting up towards the apex here. So I'll try and do some reduction there. I can take, what can I take off? Not a whole lot. I've got a branch that's kind of hanging here, and in the apex I want them more upright, so I'll take that one off. Like that. I could reduce this one back to this other shoot, and I think I will, making it more compact. I can take the tip off here, like that. I can take the tip off this one. And I think that's about as far as I can reduce the 2 larch today. You know, it's quite a severe reduction. It's a little heavy looking up top there. And I'm going to take off this one branch here. That looks a little better. Yeah, so there are my 2 trees all pruned up. Let's have a look at them from the front view. Here is a look at what I took off the tree today. So a fair amount of foliage, but I've left enough on the trees that they should grow and be healthy this summer. Here is a look at the larch now. This is the front view. Coming around to the right hand side, the back, the left hand side, and back to the front. Larch trees in nature can take on many forms. Being a mountain tree, they see all kinds of different conditions. I've seen larch trees, old ones with big spreading flat tops. The ones I see around in my area are generally conical shaped like this, so that's why I've chosen this style, because it's familiar to me. It's like the larches I see when I go for a walk out in nature. So it doesn't mean every larch has to be styled in this conical form. You can style them any way you want, because that's the way they exist in nature. There's pretty well every style of larch in nature you can possibly imagine. So now it's time for today's updates. Out here in the backyard, you can see there's still snow everywhere. It's still quite cool out today, but the weather is warming up once again. We had minus 11 degrees Celsius last night, or 12 degrees Fahrenheit, so really, really cold. Whenever I step out in the backyard, I have this beautiful maple in the backyard, and it's a good example of a beautiful flowing branch structure. I'm always talking about flowing branches on my trees, and this is a really good example. How those trunks divide, upright trunks, how horizontal branches come off of them. Yeah, it's a really good example of a deciduous maple. Yeah, and it's very inspiring. Over here I have a really good example of a white pine. Totally different branch structure. Yeah, and every time I step outside, I look at these trees and it reminds me of the beauty of nature. And that's what I'm trying to create in bonsai, is not to change nature, but just to get that beauty of nature in miniature. Here in the greenhouse, everything is leafing out and greening up. I think this is the earliest I've ever had the greenhouse turn green. And that's just because we've had a warm winter, and now with this sunshine, everything's leafing out and looking really good. I have several trees that will need pruning soon, like this birch here. My black locust is getting quite bushy, which is, you know, very, very early to be pruning trees this time of year. But, you know, again, you go with the flow of nature. You look at the trees when they're ready to bud out. That's when you repot them. And when they start getting bushy, you can start pruning them. It doesn't matter what month it is, what day it is. You look at the trees and they tell you what to do. One thing to watch out for is that as the trees become active, they start to use water. You know, you're used to going all winter, hardly watering them. The trees are dormant. But when they start leafing out, they start using the water for sure. So you've got to really be careful to keep them watered, especially when it's above freezing. Even the trees in my unheated polyhouse are starting to bud out now, which is incredibly early. So once they start budding out, you've got to protect them. You've got to keep them above freezing if possible. So there's a lot of work in spring. I'm lucky I have this greenhouse here that I can turn the heater on at night. But trees in the polyhouse, they're up to the temperatures of nature. And yeah, when it's time to repot them, the trees tell you, and then you've just got to protect them afterwards the best you can. I'm going to finish off today's video by repotting this Shagbark Hickory tree. I got this last summer. My wife ordered a bunch of seedlings, and it's in, you know, one of these fiber pots, cocoa fiber pots, and I tried to keep it watered throughout the whole summer. There's not much soil in this pot, and towards the end of summer I was away and the tree dried out and it lost its leaves. So I've been watering it carefully ever since, and I think it's still alive. The leaves didn't emerge after it lost its leaves towards the end of summer. So I'm hoping it's still alive. I'm going to repot it today into a larger pot, and I'll know once I get it out of the pot if the roots look healthy. I know the tree's alive. It does have a lot of buds on the branches here, but I can't guarantee it's alive. I'll get the tree out of the pot. So there's the tag, Shagbark Hickory, Carya ovata. Carya ovata. Carya ovata, maybe. And that was from, oh, it doesn't say where it's from. It says sun, part shade, watering is medium. So I think I'll just maybe cut this pot away. Ooh, these scissors are hot in the sun here. So it's quite warm in the greenhouse today. Ow, these scissors are hot. Wow. It's quite hot in the greenhouse today. The vents have opened up on it. And that's just because of the sunshine. So here's the tree. So I'll comb out the roots, removing the soil, and hopefully I'll be able to tell if the roots are alive or not. If they just kind of crumble away, well, maybe the tree's not going to make it. But so if this tree doesn't make it, I planted a lot of hickory nuts this spring, and I'm hoping, you know, they germinate and grow eventually, because I would like to have a hickory tree. They're beautiful trees. They get fantastic yellow flowers in spring. They have a very unique structure to the trees, almost like a coniferous tree. Kind of a central trunk with horizontal branches coming off them. Yeah, so they're a very unique looking tree. So there's my roots. And I can't tell if it's alive. I mean, the trunk looks healthy. It's not withered or anything. So I think it's doing fine. So I'll try and wash the roots. I don't have my washing station outside is frozen. So I'll just kind of wash it with the watering can. That's about as clean as I can get them. Here is a look at my hickory tree. So I am going to do a little bit of root pruning. So this is my taproot, and generally, I always say I cut my taproot in about half the first initial potting. So I'm going to come in here and cut the taproot, and I should be able to see if it's alive by the look of the the root after I cut it. So here I go. That's a look at it. I think it's healthy. I guess time will tell. I don't see, it doesn't feel like dead wood. It doesn't look like dead wood. So that's my tree to plant. I'm not going to do any top pruning. I'm just going to plant it up in a larger pot and just see how it does. I've got my dust mask on, so I'm ready to plant the tree. And I'm just going to hold the tree in the pot and pour the soil in around the roots. So I'll set the height in the pot to about here and fill it in. And that soil should just flow around the roots like that. And I'll kind of work it in a bit. And hopefully this little hickory tree will survive. Like I said, it's such a cool species, the hickory. And I'll give it a water. Here I go. So this tree was in the poly house for the winter. So in the greenhouse here, it should be warming up and becoming active. So time will tell. I'll place my tag back in the pot here so I don't forget what kind of tree it is, because a lot of these little seedlings look the same until they get their leaves out. It is just absolutely beautiful here in the greenhouse today. It feels like summer. So today I got my large trees pruned back nice and compact. I hopefully have the Shagbark Hickory underway as a bonsai. So that is it for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.